Blessings, beautiful souls. Avalon here, Sarava and Axe. Welcome back to my channel. It is the 1st of January. Oh, it's a fresh new year. 2019 is here. Woo! So now that it is 2019, I have this typical new year optimism. It's the type of optimism that oftentimes possesses me at this time of the year, and I get all these great ideas, I get all of this really enthusiastic, creative flux and flow, and I thought that I was going to capitalize on that today for you right now, right here, and discuss a little bit about why I think it is beneficial. In fact, I think it's an awesome idea to have a New Year tarot reading. Every year, I give myself a New Year reading. I do it religiously. It happens every year. And over the years, I have become more and more passionate about this New Year reading concept, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to list 5 things, 5 little tips that I think will be beneficial to you when you are considering having a New Year reading, whether or not you go to outsource it, you come to a professional like myself who offers this service, or you do this yourself. It's neither here nor there. The point is that there is a way to absolutely maximize your 2019 New Year reading. And so I thought I would throw some things at you. Some little tips, some little fun things to consider, things that I like to do for my clients, and it's sort of like a bit of an echo on the way that I like to deliver my readings, particularly my New Year reading. Look at the lovely view of my water tanks. Yes, we're off-grid, folks. Anyway, I have found that having New Year readings, it allows you to connect with the optimism of that brand spanking new fresh time of the year. For me, when the new year rolls in, there is this absolutely palpable sense of optimism. There's a sense of enthusiasm. There's this excitement. There is just this freshness, and I really love to be able to connect with that and to do a really great reading in that type of frame of mind, within that energy. And so I find that December and January are obviously obvious and also best times to do New Year readings. It's super windy, super duper windy. So my first tip is to keep your reading in the forefront of your mind, and you can do this in very practical ways. Most of us have access to a calendar. I think most of us have smartphones these days. Those who don't probably have access to wall calendars and things of that nature. And so the calendar is your best friend in this regard. Now, whether you choose to go based on your smart device, or whether you choose to get fancy and go for a beautiful journal or a planner, I myself am a big fan of the Hobonichi. That's just me, and I do like the Leuchten, but I digress. And then what I like to do is place the relevant information from my reading in the appropriate places within my calendar, my diary. And so I typically lay out 1 card for each month of the year. That's January through to December, the Gregorian calendar. And so on the 1st of January, I would put the card for the 1st of January, and I would follow that pattern all the way through to December. That is tip number 1. I'm traipsing around my yard, hoping very much not to stand on a snake. How is that for optimism for the 1st of January? Okay, so my second tip is to extract from your cards a theme. You can call it a framework. I like to call it a theme, but both words work beautifully. And what I mean by this is, when we do tarot readings, we have this obvious reflex to extract a message, and this is very positive. This is what tarot reading is all about. But when I'm doing New Year readings, I like to look at the card and not just pull the message, but also a theme, an overarching framework that I can place cleanly over the month for that card. So I find that by having a theme, whenever I roll into a new month, I know that I've got a theme, a constructive, creative theme to work with. This keeps me really upbeat, keeps me positive, keeps me enthusiastic, keeps me grateful, and it keeps me inspired. Because as we know, as we go through the year, we ebb and flow. Our energy ebbs and flows, and we can sometimes find ourselves, how's this wind? We can sometimes find ourselves in like little spiritual slumps or feeling really low energy. And by having those themes to anchor into, it gives us something to work with, something that's solid, that's in place, that we can actively connect with and work with. And I'm being called. So my third tip to you is to assign yourselves tasks in association with the cards that you have pulled. Make these tasks simple, make them creative, make them enticing. This way, when that month rolls on in, you've got this tantalizing option to access this tangible aspect from your reading. This is probably one of my absolute favorites. I love to do this. I love to assign tasks to my clients when I'm doing readings because I know that it is fun. I know it's fun. I do it for myself and I know the results that it can bring to me. And so this is obviously something that I'm going to do for others as well. It's so fun. Yes, just chilling out next to my father's house, which is a converted container. It's very spiffy inside. Very nice, very nice. So my fourth tip for you for New Year readings is as follows. Throughout a 12 card plus reading, which is a typical New Year reading if you're doing it the way that I do it at least, then what you're going to get some really great cards, you're going to get some really challenging cards. And the idea here is to create this tangible sense of optimism, control, and inspiration throughout the reading. And so for those more challenging cards, you know, the ones that I'm talking about, the ones that kind of cause a little bit of a reaction when you see them, especially in a New Year reading, I like to assign constructive call to actions. Yes, I know that that's a very marketing type term, but honestly, there's no other better way to put it. So when I see a card, like say the Three of Swords, then I assign that active component. I assign a task to be completed either by myself or for my beautiful client, something that gets them out of that headspace of feeling as though they are at the mercy of the card, and more so to entice this level of control and this level of boss, as in, yeah, I'm gonna do something about this. I'm gonna feel motivated enough to do something about this. This is not gonna hinder me. It's in fact going to make my year, or it's going to enable me to really access the necessary healing tools or creative tools, etc., to make that particular month and the energies of that card really work for you. You get where I'm going with this? Call to actions, baby. Like, just find really constructive ones, really creative ones, and just do it. Just do that. Now, you may be wondering already why it is that tip number 3 and tip number 4 sound similar one to the other. Tip number 3 was assign tasks and make them simple, creative, etc. And tip number 4 was, well, call to actions. They do sound similar, and in fact they are quite similar. However, tip number 4 is specifically in place to deal with difficult cards and to create this feeling or this sense of empowerment in the face of potentially challenging themes that can arise in a full reading. A task can be associated to absolutely any card, and these can be light-handed approaches. These can be really simple, very creative types of activities and or mindfulness practices, whereas the call to action is something definite. It has a different weight to it. It is far more resolute. It can be felt. It's very active. And so therein lies the difference. Yes, 3 and 4 are both tasks, but there is a different energy present in both of those. And tip number 5 is invite the mystical. And there are absolutely, oh gosh, countless ways in which you can do this, honestly. But seeing as I am a practicing pagan witch, and seeing as most of the people that come to me for readings are mystically minded at the very least, I absolutely adore assigning these more mystical-esque type tasks and little things that can be done to help to optimize that reading. Now, take for instance, when considering the ebb and flow of a whole year reading. When considering that ebb and flow, you're going to have high points, you're going to have low points, you're going to have challenging cards, you're going to have really, you know, outstanding, shining, bright, optimistic cards. So the idea here is to optimize those, you know, bright cards, those, you know, high energy cards, and to construct magical little tidbits. We'll call them tools for the purpose of this conversation. Tools that you can then shelve in your apothecary, that can then be bought out when in the face of a more difficult month and or card. So if you got the Sun card, for instance, in your reading, and the Sun card was in March, let's say, just for example, I would create something really awesome for the Sun card, something mystical, something like a beautiful incense that had a super solar charge, a hydrosol, or a magical oil. Then I might look down the barrel of my year and see that I had some kind of, you know, difficult card. Let's call it a 9 of Swords or a 10 of Swords or something to that degree. There's many challenging cards within the tarot. I'm just going to pull whichever one comes to mind first. Well, then I would take that bottled Sun energy created in the space of the Sun and in the mind frame of the Sun, in that energy of the Sun in that month, I would take that bottled Sun energy and I would then unleash it at a time where I needed it most, a time of challenge, a time where I needed some radiance, some optimism. And that's just one example. There are many ways that you can invite the mystical into your readings, and if you are that type of person, then by all means open up that door and invite that mystical in. It's not hard to do so, and you certainly don't need to do it for every single card, because that would be far too tiring or far too cumbersome. But hey, if that too floats your boat, then by all means assign 10 per card. It doesn't really matter how you do this. I find that I like to utilize it, to go to that sense of mystical, to utilize that approach, to bring a sense of balance into my readings, so that I'm not left sort of feeling a little bit low at some points without having too much to grapple onto. Yes, assigning tasks, yes, call to actions are wonderful, but sometimes just having that little something magical, that little something special can make or break a month. And it's something that I have come to understand over the years as a professional tarot reader and a practitioner of witchcraft. These are things that I like to do. They work for me, they work for my clients, and I've got to say, I highly recommend it. Just try inviting the mystical and see where that takes you. So there you have it, beautiful souls. They are my 5 little tips, tricks for getting the absolute most out of your New Year readings. I've got to say, today is the 1st of January, and I feel always so very optimistic on the 1st of January. I think this is the case for many people. And so I hadn't planned this video out. I just really wanted to share some of that optimism with you in a way that I knew some of you might appreciate. As a passionate tarot person, as a lover of tarot, as a card slinger, and as a professional tarot reader, doing my New Year tarot readings are something that I have always done since I first started working with tarot. I'm talking over decades now, and it's something that I continuously do because I find that there is so much benefit to it. I absolutely love slinging those cards at the start of the year and then being able to work with that energy throughout my entire year. And it makes me feel so connected. It gives me a purpose. It gives me a map, a roadmap, if you will, to work with. And it's something that I have found to be so totally beneficial to me. Now, if you've had a different experience, then I'd love to hear your experience. But I will say this, whether you choose to go out and get a reading with someone like myself or you choose to do this yourself, make sure that whoever you're getting a reading from has a very similar approach to life as you do. And also, if you're doing this yourself, make sure that you're super competent, that you feel confident in yourself to do this. Otherwise, there are amazing readers out there, and there are many people that you can turn to for a little support and a little guidance when trying to do this for yourself. But at the end of the day, it's all about having fun with it. It's about working with the tarot, making the tarot work for you, and making it a constructive and creative approach that inspires throughout your entire year. So with all of that said and done, beautiful souls, Happy New Year! I hope your 2019 is absolutely amazing, and I will be speaking to you very, very soon. Mwah! Much love and many blessings.